Tim, would you mind opening us in a word of prayer?
Yeah. Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for letting us all come together. Bless this meeting that we're prosperous and on task and on target. Lord, bless everybody as we travel today. Bless us in our other endeavors that go on. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. If you'll stand for the pledges.
Oh, they do.
All right, well, we're going to have to
Pretend it's over.
Yeah.
Well, we don't even have a flag anywhere, but we'll pledge anyway. Imaginary flag over here. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
All right. Nothing like virtual pledges. Everyone should have received your packet. First thing we'll move to is approving the minutes of the June 13th, 2024 meeting. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes as were sent out?
I've got a couple on page 3. Down there, just a little below mid-page, it says motion was made, Mr. Boutin, to redact the UTPB Business Challenge. I know redact can mean delete, but it can also mean block out, and it basically, I think we just, clarity, just change that word to delete to make sure that we are deleting that. And then the next page, on page 4, at about the middle, it says Oryx Plastics Company LLC qualifies for $2.2 million under the current matrix, and I think what we were told was 2.1, because that's what we made the motion.
That's
for.
correct.
So I would change that 2.2 million to 2.1. Those are the only issues that I had with it.
I did want to add a little clarifying statement too on that same page, just above, or right at the top of page 3, where second paragraph where we talk about the motion that was made for the compliance committee members. I'd like to add this statement to kind of reflect what was said there. Mr. Harry stated that he would not withdraw his motion to appoint. As in the previous meeting, the ODC board had approved the motion by Mr. Boutin to approve a slate of reappointments to the compliance committee.
Yep, that was in there.
So do you want to, can we add then my explanation that says that they don't match up because we only had 4 reappointments? There wasn't
Sure.
a slate of 11 or 12.
Sure.
With those changes, I would move for approval.
Second.
Second from Mr. Kurtz. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Minutes of the June 13th, 2024 meeting are approved. So we will move on to contractor reports. Mr. Maskey.
This feels strange, so I'm going to turn it on. Not that I need it, it just feels strange talking to the backside of the microphone. Morning.
Morning.
Good to see everybody. Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed today. You will find my report after the minutes. A lot of these projects have not moved a lot since last time I reported to y'all. It's summertime. No one was around on the 4th of July. Everybody around our office took, not everyone, but most of the office took some vacation time last week or the week before, including myself. I'd like to consider it much needed. You will see on there some of the projects. Project Oasis, they were just before the County Commissioners Court on a reinvestment zone vote just this last Tuesday. And then there will be a posting on the reinvestment zone, and it'll go for a final vote August, first meeting in August for the County Commissioners Court. That is a $200 million project, approximately. That's an ancillary to 1.5. It's a water treatment project They're going to retrieve or get their own water and treat it out there, raw water, at the location adjacent to 1.5. And so that is moving forward.
Fresh water, or is that gonna be brine?
Brian.
Brine?
Yeah. And so 25 to 30 employees, I think that's actually increased a little bit, but it's also the average salary for those employees is approximately $150,000.
Is that water for use in recovery or in 1.5 or?
1.5. It's part of their deal. They're doing a modular project because we are told that what they're building out there in the beginning, this $200 million portion that's, approximately 30 employees or maybe 40 now, that it would serve up to 2 DACs. And as you know, they're building one. And so hopefully that means they're going to build another one because those are $1 billion plus now. But the plan is to keep them going. And so they're building it modular so that they can add, hopefully, with more DACs down the road. And so they're discussing, this is like a 10 to 15 year project, hopefully. The current DAC is over 90% completed. If you ever go out there, it'll be running in, if not by the end of 24, it'll be running in, it'll be capturing carbon in 25, early 25, but they're blowing and going with that. But they have to get these other projects up. If you remember, Project Molecule, which is on the next page, that is another ancillary. That is a gas separation project for them. It's already been, the name's been released, Matheson Gas. They're going to do approximately an $80 million project out there to put a gas separation unit. And so these were actually projects that 1.5 was going to do internally as part of the project, as part of their initial $810 million proposal. The project costs kept climbing, so now they've reached out and gotten partners to help with the project, but we hope that this means everything keeps moving because they do plan on building a DAC in Kleberg County, but we're trying to work with them steadfast to get all the infrastructure in line so that we're the favored location for future DACs. The one in Kleberg County, they actually received some I don't think it's EDA money, but they did receive some federal money to help with that project because they specifically applied for that with that. They were too far down the line. I think it might have been the Inflation Reduction Act money. I think there was some money in there, but they were too far down the road with this project to apply for those funds. So they were able to apply, and what I've seen online is they were awarded some funds to do a project down there.
Quick question for you, Tom.
Yes, sir.
Was these ancillary projects that we're working on, and I wasn't a part of the original discussion with 1.5, so forgive me. My question is were they was part of this 810 million that they were?
They were part of the 810 million. They were not going to have other partners initially. All of our discussions
that they're building out, that was part of the original 810 grant, correct?
Yeah, they thought they were going to be able to do everything for 810 million. Now, as early as November 22, the CEO of Oxy in the Houston Business Journal came out and said that our cost is now 1.1 billion for that project in Ector County. It has grown since then, and so like a lot of our projects, they're coming in. Their capex is typically their initial when they fill out a grant. It's lower than what it winds up being.
But that 1.1 billion is independent of these two ancillary projects.
Correct.
now.
I'm sorry so correct.
Originally, that 810 million that they were doing would have included these projects at the same time, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And Oxy is come out in some journals and said our cost, Oxy's cost on their part of the project is like at least 1.1 billion. And how much higher than that? I've heard 1.5, but that's speculation. But these projects are separate from that. So obviously the capital investment, the property value, everything is it's good for Ector County. It's all escalating. So
refresh my memory, Tom, real quick, on these big projects like the $1.1 billion project. I know they got different agreements with the school district, with this, with that. how long is it before, any property tax revenue is really seen out of those projects? Do you have a,
Most
Trying to
of
figure out all those
the,
pieces.
most of the abatement agreements are 10 years.
10 years?
They're not all the same. None of them that I can think of right now are 100% for 10 years. They kind of stair-step down. You may have a popular one, it might be 100% the first 5 years, and then 75% or 50% the next 5 years. But in working with the taxing entities, bringing some of these projects around, they're all revisiting how they do them, and it's a tougher sell. So.
I think the legislation was changed too.
On 313, which specifically applies to the school district. They sunset 313, I believe that was at the end of '22, and 1.5 is a 313 project. GCC was a 313 project. They usually, we help with introductions and things locally, but that usually involves consultants and attorneys, and they deal directly with like the school district's consultant and then deal with Austin. Because the 313, you had to go through, I believe, the comptroller's office, and on the new one, House Bill 5, which is referred to as the Jetty Act, jobs, I can't remember everything. The acronym's only a year old, so I can't remember it. But you go through another channel on that one. We have not worked on that incentive yet with a project and have actually not been asked. Usually on a 313, it's not something we told them about. They would walk in the door and they knew about it. And that's usually when you're dealing with the company they're utilizing their tax consultant or they're utilizing a site selector.
Tom, it sounds likely that some tax revenue would start coming in after 5 years.
I
The
don't.
way those are written, to some of the entities.
Something will come in. I can't remember. I don't believe they got 100% on everything. Can you remember, Tracy? I can email y'all. I can go back and check. Some of them we don't get a copy from the taxing entity of their abatement agreement. Some we do, but I can go back and try to check on that. I know Oxy did or 1.5 did a 313.
Have you followed CGC on their abatement lawsuits over trying to get the state that denied their environment?
They
abatement?
contested their appraised value from when, I believe, 2019 and 2020, and that issue came up when they were working with the county on tax abatement. I have not talked specifically about that with their consultant, but we talk at least once a week. I can find out for you.
I agree that's something to take into consideration, the environment, the expectation of getting environmental credits whenever they denied those. So I don't know if you're familiar.
Well, the lawsuit we were more familiar with was when they contested their appraised value. And so on the environmental credits, I wouldn't know to comment on that right now.
Right, that's exactly the same thing, but it was, the value changed because it was.
Oh, because of the.
considered, yeah, as taxable because of the EPA regulation, which, anyway, that's what the lawsuit was about. But it was still progressing last time I checked, so.
Well, I know last time I checked on it, which was probably 8 months to a year ago, it was nothing had been settled.
Okay, thank you.
With that, a couple of things I'll mention. Mr. Harry, I do owe y'all a project list. I do not have that today because of holiday vacation time, and y'all require this little thing called a budget, so we've been working on that.
That's key numbers.
And so just numbers, but you will have that for the next meeting.
Awesome. Thank you.
And then what else was I going to mention? If you drive down Faldry, drive down Business 80 towards Faldry, look to your right and you'll notice Liberty has gone vertical, and that's a big building they're putting up. And so that's good news for everybody. Next month for your meeting, you'll have Project Triple S in front of you, which is another one that for incentives. I've already talked molecule. Do not have an update on Project Logical Location, which was the MOU y'all approved last meeting, but I'm going to reach out to their consultant today and find out anything we need to do for them and give y'all an update on that. You will see after the projects some of our activities and then BR&E visits. And then you get into partner programs we worked on, our economic indicators, and then our social media numbers. Following that is our budget in there. If you have any questions on the budget, I'd be happy to try to answer that. A couple of things I wanted to bring to your attention. One of them I will hand out. This is a very early agenda. It's actually probably going to change a little bit, but we're working on a project called Project Cohort, and I'll just hand them out. And we're going to do a kind of an event in September. That says August 2nd, but I convinced her that Fridays aren't a good date for those things, and in order to promote it properly, one of the committee members working with this, I said, let's move this to September. Plus, it also works better for OC because that's the location we're going to utilize. But it's called Knowledge Without Borders, and it's basically to work with employers and citizens on what are the proper channels, pipelines to be able to legally work. We've got a lot of people in the region who are not able to legally work. We certainly need workforce. If we can get them legally able to attain work, one, they become tax-paying citizens, and two, it helps our workforce. And so we're going to provide information working with LULAC and Workforce Solutions, Odessa College, and some other partners. We're trying to develop what is called an Immigration Resource Center. There are a number of these around the state, but unfortunately, there's not one in the Permian Basin. And so we're looking at putting something like that together to help provide the resources to individuals who are out there that could become an active part of the workforce. And they may be part of the workforce not knowing right now, they just may not be legal. And so we want to provide a pipeline where they can go through that process. As part of this, the learning for me is there's tons of different ways and different types of visas. I was kind of shocked on all the different things and how much you really have to involve an attorney. I would give you a deeper impression of that if Dan wasn't sitting over here, but apparently attorneys are pretty important. So
What's the venue on it? Where?
it's going to be at Odessa College. It's not on here yet, but we'll get that out. This is this hit email Monday, I think, so it's that new, and we're going to change the agenda a little bit and some conversations. We've got another meeting on it Tuesday morning. And as you can tell, I didn't do everything. Well, really, I didn't put anything together on this, but you can also see the obvious on that, which is proof, is they misspelled my last name, but that's okay. Another item that's coming up even sooner than that, which you will start seeing, we finally got some media information on, we're helping organize, is the Governor's Small Business Summit. They do these around the state. It's about a half a day. The Governor's office brings in all the state's small business resources that help small business get started, existing businesses, what do they need help with, things of that nature. And we're even going to have some programs that morning. It's a half-day deal. It's going to be like 8 o'clock to 1, something like that. The venue changed yesterday, but it could change again, so I don't want to share that yet. The Small Business Development Center is going to be actively involved. Is Tyler here? He's not an early morning guy, but he's actively involved with it. UTPB and Odessa College both are involved, and any programs they have to assist small businesses, they will be able to highlight at this thing. Oh, and I was about to mention some of the programs we're going to have speakers for: AI, cybersecurity, small business financing. Those will all be parts of the program.
What date will that be, Tom?
That will be August 22nd. And they do like 15 of these around the state throughout the year. And we went ahead and submitted a proposal to host one. And now my team is upset with me. like, so I do stuff like that. But other than that, I think that's everything I have right now. I'll be back up here before you gentlemen. Our compliance committee chair and vice chair neither one were able to make it, so I'll be representing compliance with a couple of items before you today.
While you're up here, Tom, one quick question.
Yeah.
What's our status on the CERO and our rewrite on policy on, do you know?
If you're referring to, and I think, I can't remember if it was officially rewritten, y'all had mentioned at a previous meeting about not funding projects where the jobs are somewhere else.
Right.
I don't know if we've officially rewritten any of that, but we certainly are acting in that fashion. Do I?
Yeah.
We were gonna-
doing that, but Tracy did ask me to send her the policy, and I did.
Okay. We'll take a look at it, make sure that,
We're
because it's
gonna
probably something y'all have
rewrite
to.
the construction visibility verbiage where we would see progress on some of these projects in the future.
We haven't addressed that. I know there's been discussion on seeing progress. I think a lot of that was when that conversation came up among the board was referring to some of the downtown projects.
Right. And I bring this up because El Paso, their ODC, their El Paso development, they came up with a lot of loose-ended stuff where they didn't even have any covenants or policies, and so they're having to change their whole philosophy and what they're doing and start basically from the beginning because
Yeah.
they were just handing out and not monitoring, no compliance, nothing, so.
Well, we're just now dipping our toe into downtown, and I met with y'all last month and talked about it. So since you bring that up today, we're certainly look at that. And then on the, we are action-wise, we're when we're dealing with projects, we're certainly making sure that the jobs are in the city, county, even though it's not in writing yet, but that spurs me to say we need to put something in front of you sooner than
My
later.
recollection was that we were going to change the verbiage in our contracts.
Right.
To
Yeah.
more clearly identify what's being spent, how's it being spent, where's it being spent, and whatnot. That's really where we
Yes.
were trying to get to. I
Yeah.
don't think it was a
And-
policy change.
Right.
It was a contract
Okay.
verbiage change.
Contract, yes.
Yeah,
Specifics
going forward,
on-
just to make sure that all that was clear.
And I think we need to complete that before this year ends, so.
We can refer that to our attorney as far as moving forward with any new contracts. It needs to be, because we actually ran into an issue with compliance this week on some, one new compliance audit and two older ones for the same project. There wasn't enough clarity on what was spent on payroll and jobs and capital expenditure. And so that's a good point you bring up. We can let Mr. Moore know that the contract needs to really specify where the money's being spent and on what.
Well, thanks for letting me bother you. In Chris's absence, he might have those answers too.
Mr. Robinson, you've never bothered me.
Thank you.
On the
Give me
CERO,
time.
have we heard anything back from those guys as the possible repayment of the?
No, I've talked to Nacero once about a month. I let him know the letter was coming. Jeff has sent the letter. It had his signature, Jeff Moore. And so they've received the letter. I haven't heard anything. We did correct it when he sent it back to me. Obviously, the contact in the EDA changed because it had their previous CEO, and they've got a new CEO. But I can follow up on that today and find out.
Would you mind sending that copy of that letter out to the board as well?
Happy to do so.
Thank you.
So, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Apologize for my tardiness. Appreciate y'all's patience with me. Since that takes care of economic development, to be current media. Is Christie still sick?
Yeah, Christie, we'll cover that when we hit ad campaign a little bit. Our ad committee, Christie was planning on being here to do kind of a deep dive into our target industry survey, and she ended up with COVID, so we'll push that to tentatively to the August 1st budget meeting because it'll have a lot of impact on her budget as well. So
Okay. We'll pray for speedy recovery for her in the meantime. Black Chamber of Commerce. I see our wonderful Mr. Walker here today. Would you like to give us some information?
I can be short and sweet. I'm operating on 1 cup of coffee, so I'm good.
All right.
So this can be just kind of to the point, and
Numbers, you gotta pump those up.
oh no, I'll tell you, when I don't have at least 3 cups of coffee, I'm not functioning properly. First of all, morning to everybody. I almost said good evening. I wanted to come and touch base. I know that you have the reports, and in our reports, you see that our numbers continue to flourish. Thank God. So actually, someone is out there looking at our numbers. They're looking at our websites. We're up another 3% on our. My younger members tell me I think it's Instagram. So they kind of keep me updated and tell me, we're looking at we saw a 15% increase in our website activity, but we had so much going on because of our Juneteenth activity through the month of June. So we saw a spike in all of our activity, which, hopefully that'll continue because July is just as active. And as a matter of fact, that is one of the main reasons I wanted to kind of pitch some events that are going to be taking place here in July, which is point one is the Professional Women's Conference, which kicks off today. It is for VIPs today. It will be from the 11th through the 13th, which we are one of the sponsors. It will be hosted at the Marriott, so it is taking place right now. This is Dr. Gorman. If you don't know Dr. Gorman, she's from Pecos, and she is very active in Odessa. Anything that takes place here in Odessa, Dr. Gorman is a part of. The activity number 2 is we're going to have our first annual bowling tournament, and we're doing this because of the lack of golf courses. If you are a golfer, and I see Chris shaking his head, so they know this. For some reason, some of the golf courses went away, and we were trying to schedule our dates, and I think every organization in the Permian Basin was trying to schedule their dates. So we're still waiting on a tentative date for our golf tournament. So we said instead of just waiting for something to come available, we said, why not make bowling cool again? So we're going to have our first annual bowling tournament, and this will be on the 20th at Diamond Lanes. So if you're a bowler, somewhat of a bowler, want to bowl, almost a bowler, please come out and take part. I don't bowl, so I'm hoping they'll put some of the little paddings out so that way I don't throw gutter balls. So I'm going to go late at night so I can start practicing. Point 3 is we're going to sponsor the Literacy Fair, which will be July the 7th, and this will be at the Woodson Boys and Girls Club. This will be the 3rd year. Last year, I think they were able to, the attendance was somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,100. So this was well attended. So if for some reason you don't have anything to do on that date, please come out and witness this. It's an all-day event. They have vendors basically giving out school supplies, different things that are needed in the community so that these young people can get their stuff so they can help them with some of the parents are pretty lacking, and we see that when we do our grocery giveaways. We still have some people that are struggling. We hate to see that, but we're glad that we can help them. And I received a notification from the Woodson Girls and Boys Club as well. They're going to do the Center of Hope, which is the grand opening, and this is going to be July the 17th. this is going to be the ribbon cutting and the grand opening. So if you're available for that as well, please come out and be a part of this great grand opening. We are also promoting that we are going to once again give out our scholarships through the Black Chamber. We're going to award 10 scholarships. So if you know a senior that has just graduated from the Permian Basin, they're entitled to apply for these scholarships, and we'd love for them to apply and give them money so that we can support our youngsters. I know that we're trying to grow them and keep them here. So we're encouraging them. We're working with Dr. Williams and have conversated with Dr. Woodley that if we can get them to attend here, stay local, is there some kind of way that we can work them in, and with the Wrangler Promise and then the Falcon Free. So we're trying to keep a lot of our kids local, and believe it or not, the 50% of the students we have conversated with has committed to stay local. So if we can get them to stay local and go to school here, maybe we can get them to stay and work here. So that's our mentality for that. So we also worked with ConocoPhillips. That program will take part. It will be active July the 29th, and this is the LIFT Fund through ConocoPhillips. So as you see, we don't have much going. So try to stay busy. I think that's the only reason I retired, so that I could just be busier than what I was before. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer them or try to answer them.
Any questions, Mr. Walker?
No.
Thank you.
All right.
Good report. Looks like you've been working hard.
Oh, goodness, I tell you, I tell you, I'm underpaid, but anyway. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, UTPB Small Business, I don't see Mr. Patton. Motran, Mr. Beecham's not here. Well, that's only leaves one. Miss Vanda, come on down.
I'm not so chipper this early in the morning.
That's okay. Well, we'll get you used to it.
Chris, when you get together, grab some coffee before you come.
I'm really not chipper before 9 a.m.
Thank you.
So you're lucky it's 9
Hey, say we're close.
Tim had a good idea. We'll just start scheduling you with Mr. Walker to have coffee before the
Yeah,
before the
get
ODC
it
meetings.
done.
So this is exciting for me because we're finally all caught up on financials and on schedule, on track. So yes, what you have before you is May 2024. So we'll just go through this together. Let me know if you have any questions. So here on the first page, on our total assets, we're looking at a local government pool balance of $70,445,937. We have CDs totaling $4,412,044. Our muni securities at Frost totaling $2,989,590,000. I'm sorry, it's my non-chipperness, $2,989,590. So further down, I'll just skip over, you can see the interest there. On the sales tax receivable, that did post to our general ledger on June 18th, so next month you'll see that gone. Further down on the fund balance, we had no change in our fund balance reserved figures. We didn't have any payments paid out to these entities, so that will stay the same as it was last month in regard to the short-term and long-term reserve commitments. I did get a little bit more information on the text dot figure from our legal team. So that was originally, when it was put in place, $11.5 million, and some monies have been expended, so there's still $7 million left, so I need to identify which projects those are. I have a list of the ones that were established with the 11.5 million, but I don't know which ones are tied to that 7.
I'm sorry, Kayla, I got lost there. The textile project.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Crow, I'll probably get with you and see what kind of documentation you have on the ones that you've signed off on,
Yes, ma'am.
just so I can add that into my files as I'm doing that research.
No problem at all. I
What's
think I
that?
got all of those saved, so it should be no problem.
Okay, perfect, perfect, perfect. So our total fund balance as of the end of May is $90,005,053. Almost a nice round number there. So flip to the second page for me. This month, you all received $1,314,760.16 in sales tax. So total year-to-date collected, $9.5 million, which is above budget and great. The total revenues for that month, just in factoring in some interest income and things, $1,710,805. So further down in the expenditures, what you had this month, you had some Whitley Pen invoices that were paid, tied into that $26,599. A new expense that wasn't on last month's is the insurance. So the way that that works is each department of the city, and for this conversation purpose, we can include ODC as under that term. Each department pays a small portion of the insurance. So y'all's portion is very small. And we hadn't been doing that journal entry because it wasn't on our radar. So we'll now be doing that journal entry more frequently, and you'll be seeing that on the statements.
Is that liability insurance?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And further down, administration fee, that's the same fee every month. On marketing, there was kind of a large bill paid out this month. So those invoices represent work done in March, April, and May primarily, but there were also some invoices paid out for work done in November, December, and January. We paid those pretty timely when they came in, but they were sent to the wrong vendor, so they were voided, and we had to reissue them, so that's why they're appearing here in this number. So total,
Kelly, is there?
yes.
Trying to think in my mind, since the checks didn't actually clear, then we don't have to see a credit coming back before these
They did,
expense
so,
back out. I mean, so I'm assuming when you wrote these checks in November, December, January, they were expensed then?
yes.
So now we're expensing them here. Where do they, where does
So
that money come
they're
back?
credited once they're voided, because our accounting system is tied to the AP system. So once we void it in the AP system, it credits it here. And then once we rewrote it, it reissued the expense. So if you look at the breakdown of this 162, you'll see the 39,000 and the 37,000 originally expensed, and then you'll see the credit for both of those, and then you'll see them again when we issued it correctly.
Just did want to make sure that later on it didn't show more expenses.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for
Mhm.
answering that.
Sure thing. So total expenditures for the month, $219,262,000. We will be issuing the quarterly payments to the contractors this coming week, so you won't see it on June's financials, but just so you know that that's coming. Okay, so flip over to the next page for me. Like I said, we don't have any changes in the reserve fund balance as of this month because no payments were paid out. We might see some changes this month to be determined. So that is the list there.
And in May, we still have the Nacero on the books, but it'll come off in June.
So I have not received any documentation that it's been officially canceled. So once I receive that, then I will take it off.
Would that come from economic development, or would that come from our legal team?
I would assume both. The legal team,
Probably the letter from Jeff Moore
yeah.
would suffice.
Okay.
Tom just needs to send it to Kelly as well.
Mm-hmm.
Tom, can you send that to Caleb? Thank you, sir.
So, and depending on when that happened, that transaction or that letter, I'll adjust it accordingly in the
Yeah, I
financials.
would guess that, I mean, the notice, the 30-day notice letter, then whatever date,
Have to be after that.
yeah, that
30th
should
day.
be whenever that would come off.
Mhm. Okay, so I'll just expect a copy of that letter, and we'll go from there.
Kaylee,
Yes.
go back, can we go back to the insurance issue?
Mhm.
My recollection is that the only insurance expense that ODC would have would be directors and officers liability insurance. But what I thought I heard you say was that ODC is paying a portion of the, I guess, general liability insurance cost that the city would have. Is that right or not?
That's my impression. Now, the DNO might be wrapped up in that. I haven't looked at the insurance policies specifically, but I do know that that's the process for these, for the journal entry for the insurance, but I can look into it and
Yeah,
see.
because I don't remember us paying any portion, I don't remember ODC paying any portion of the city's general liability.
And I
Okay.
don't think we can. You know, I know there's a prohibition against.
So maybe
directly
this is
funding
the
anything
DNO
for the
wrapped
city,
up in
so
that policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If
and
we could
we'll-
verify that, that'd
Yeah,
be
and we'll
great.
need to
Yes.
clarify that.
I
because
can
we've
do that.
got New budget.
Because we use, we have TML, Texas Municipal League, for our property and workers' comp insurance, and then we use states for general excess liability. So y'all might be wrapped up in that excess liability portion, but I will verify.
Good question.
Okay. Any other questions so far? Okay. So let's keep going. The investment summary page, kind of the figures that we'll look at on the next page, but one of the things that I wanted to point out was the changes in fair value and interest for the CDs. We're reporting $16,496 collected in the month of May, and that's about $5,000 higher than what was reported in April, and that's because of that CD that matured at First Bank and Trust. It was very low at 2-point-something%. And they renewed it for an 8-month CD at 5%. So even just that 1 month and that small change, quote unquote small, in interest has a pretty big impact. So that is good.
On that page,
Mhm.
and it may be further back there, but that's a global picture of the next page coming up.
Mm-hmm.
But if there could be another column added with a percentage of increase on it.
Sure.
Or increase or change added in there maybe,
Yeah,
would that be possible?
it can be done. And I appreciate
Just to the
that.
value portion of it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Larry, y'all letting me know what y'all want to see, because these reports help you guys make decisions. So if there's something like that you want in here, y'all just let me
Thank
know.
you.
Okay, so moving on to the next page, we have the beginning of month and end of month investment changes. So we started this month, or started the month of May at $70,944,900 and ended at $72,583,893. So I would like to note that that $72 million is different from what you're seeing on the first page on the balance sheet. And the reason for that is that there's a journal entry, again, journal entry, recurring theme of the day, that is supposed to be done quarterly. And so what happens when you guys have an expense is the city pays it, right, because it comes out of our bank account. And then a journal entry is done to move the money from y'all's tax pool to our tax pool, because it's your expense, right? So That journal entry had not been done because it wasn't on our radar. And so now it is. So the difference between the 72 million on this page and the 70 million on the balance sheet is that difference of what is owed from the ODC tax pool to the city tax pool. Does that make sense? So on the balance sheet, that is an accurate representation of what you have quote unquote available in your tax pool account and logic.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that that's, I'm doing really quick math, 2.1 million approximately?
Yeah, so it would be approximately, yes. It's your actual year-to-date expenditures.
Okay.
So you'll see that on the second page, 2,049,661.
Cool. So it's just the actual expenses for that quarter that were moved over.
Yes.
And those were, that were realized, correct? The realized expenses, it wasn't accrued or?
Yeah, no,
Okay,
it's.
thank you. That answers my question. Perfect. Good job. Thank you.
So we'll make sure to do that quarterly moving forward so that it's just cleaner
That's
that way.
perfectly clear.
Okay, so on to the money market, $9,783,877, and that's paying at 5.22, which is healthy.
Any thoughts of moving, because I know prior, we had a little inverse, the money market's been a little higher than the tax pool accounts, but now it looks like the tax pool accounts are paying a higher rate of interest than the money market. Any thought of moving at least part of that now up to the tax pool accounts? Or are you thinking just leaving it into money market because we need to?
So completely up to you guys. They have the same liquidity component. The tax pool and the money market are both as equally accessible. So we can move some up. The only reason we have that Frost money market is just to facilitate the purchase of municipal
Others.
securities.
So another question I have, so when we move money to the city's tax pool, does it have to come from our tax pool account or can it come from the money market?
The transfer is done from tax pool to tax pool within the tax pool system. So we would have to ask Frost how we can.
And that's okay. I mean, because the thought is if, you know, we're getting a higher yield on tax pool than we are in money market, it'd be better to move money from money market to the city's account. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're
But
saying.
it'd be just as easy to move the money market to tax pool and then tax pool, if it's easier transfer from one account to the other. But,
Yeah.
you know, we always want to keep our money as close as we can to making the higher yield.
Yeah, no,
Is my
I
thought.
completely agree. And that number is probably higher than it has been in a long time because you've had multiple muni securities mature
Yes, ma'am.
this year. So we can definitely look at moving.
5 million or so?
Yeah, I would want to see what the historical balances look like just to see what we kept in there. But yes, I'll keep the 5 million number in mind and let you know if it should be more or less.
Awesome. Great job.
Okay. And then speaking of the municipal securities, you have 2 outstanding that will mature this year. Just
July and August.
one of them just has, actually. So July 1st and August 1st. So pretty soon there won't be any municipal securities on your books. You probably want to have some just for diversification purposes. So next month we can take a look at some options to purchase some of those securities.
Excellent. And I'm assuming that money will go straight to the Frost account?
Yes.
Since that Connecticut
Mhm,
matured,
so-
that's where that'll go?
Yes, so you're about to have 3 million more in
After
that
August
Frost
1st.
money market, so.
Excellent. If you would, just look and see kind of what the tax pools are doing at the time compared to the money market. If we're getting a little
Okay.
better yield, it may be a great time to move that.
Okay, any other questions on that page?
No, ma'am?
Okay, so last page of the report then is just the current sales tax figures. So, for the month of June, which is what we just recently collected, you all received $1,198,870,000.92. So next month, you'll see that added into the income statement report.
Excellent.
Any questions?
Great job. Any questions for Kayla?
Okay.
You're a breath of fresh air. Thank you so
Yay.
much.
All right.
Thank you for catching everything up. Great job.
Yep. Happy to. Thank you.
All right. That brings us to committee and officers reports. Partnership did not meet. Tax incentive, Mr. Boutin? No meet? Okay. Of course, I think you want to touch on advertising, Mr.
Yeah,
Russell?
real quick, we did meet a couple days ago, whenever it was, this week. Had a good review of kind of a combination of the target industry survey, and kind of got prepped for that to be presented to the board, and also kind of looked at how that's going to impact our ad budget for the coming year and the plans there. So overall, a good meeting, a lot of good discussion in the group, and I think Current Media has got a really good, solid plan moving forward. That kind of all the new branding, the Only Odessa is rolling out. We started placing those ads in various places. We are getting some editorial content piggybacked on top of that, and like Site Selector magazines and things like that. So not only are we buying some advertising, but we're getting some editorial type, articles about what's going on here and things like that. So, I mean, Christy and Current Media have just done a really good job, and they just kind of keep tweaking and refining as we go forward. So, target industry survey is very interesting, and we'll go over that in detail, hopefully in the August 1st budget meeting. But really will, I think, help us get honed in on a few key things where this area's really got some opportunities out of things. So we're seeing it around the ancillary stuff around 1.5 and things like that, with all the clean and renewable and carbon capture and all that kind of stuff. So, but we'll give a full report at that next meeting.
Wonderful. Any questions? Excellent. All right, that takes us to Downtown Odessa Grants Design. Did you guys meet?
As it is with DOI, there's not anything going on.
Board,
That-
it's kind of
I mean,
transitioned over to
The
economic development.
organization is, I did get a positive on the 4th of July that some of the vendors were happy that they were able to not move out there early in the morning. They could come later in the afternoon and not spend the whole day out there waiting, so.
Good.
That was a pretty awesome event too. I mean, it was well attended, sure.
And last compliance committee did meet. I was not there. Did you?
I was
wanna give us
absent.
an update? Okay, and Melanie's absent today. So would you like to give us a little update on compliance before the two items?
Well, I was just going to mention that we did have an orientation for the new members. 3 of the 4 new members were in attendance, and then the 4th who wasn't able to make it, I'll be meeting with them tomorrow at 8:30 a.m.
Excellent. Okay. Just a reminder, this is an open meeting, therefore any member of the public may address the ODC board regarding any of its agenda items before or during the consideration of that item. If you'd like to be recognized, please just let me know. Brings us to item 6, discuss and consider authorizing the Odessa Development Corporation to enter into an economic development contract agreement with Rental King LLC for the development of a new location in Odessa. And if I'm not mistaken, this has already been approved. So, Mr. Mansky, I'll let you explain.
Background on this one. Excuse me. Yes, you did approve a grant for Rental King last month for $210,000. Their project, they're proposing a new location in Odessa. They've already bought a piece of property across the highway from Family Dollar. The gentleman, Chris Moore, was made aware that he asked for a specific amount. I think it was to help him with the SBDC or SBA loan. But someone made him aware that he qualified for more money, and so he went back and put together, really changed the ask in his application and presented it to us, and it went back before compliance. Compliance reviewed it. They were fine with it, and as normal, we then push it to the ODC board.
Was there an increase in full-time jobs? Was there an increase in capital investment over the original?
He made us aware. I don't think it was put in the EDA and he didn't utilize their personal purchases as far as equipment and things for the business. And so he highlighted that with a compliance committee member that made him aware that he qualified for more money.
I'm just.
So-
And the increase is based on his, the dollar amount that he asked for was based on what came out of the metrics the first time before the committee.
So, I mean, how did the metrics change?
It didn't. It was the same, but that number was in the first metrics.
I knew originally, I think he qualified for a higher amount, but his original ask
Yeah.
was 210, so he found out he could qualify for more money and has just come back and asked for more money.
Correct, so he asked for an amount that was in the matrix. Actually, I think it's like $900 less than the top amount. That's why he increased his ask to $636,000.
Which compliance officer brought that up?
I mean, I'll be happy to tell you, I don't feel comfortable,
Okay.
but yeah, he was made aware. And
Just wondering, go ahead,
Another
Larry.
thing, you said across from Family Dollar, on what road? Which Family Dollar?
I'm sorry, the distribution center, the big on
Okay,
20.
thank you.
I'm sorry. I never really, because we have that, I never really think about the individual stores.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just a little concerned or questioning, when we had a deal in place and the Rental King was happy, we were happy, we had approved the grant. Nothing changed in terms of project scope or anything. Why would we go back and, offer more money? I mean, I wouldn't do that in my business.
That was
If it was-
basis of my question. Why would
I-
we?
Yeah, why would we do that?
I can't speak for the thought behind making the business aware of it. We handled it like every other project as far as the staff, and we got it through compliance and brought it to y'all. That's probably out of the ordinary to do what's happened here. But I mean, you can tell us you don't want to see that again, and we won't go through the process again. But this time it occurred, and he submitted it, and so we went through our normal channels.
Yeah, I'd say, thank the Economic Development Department and Compliance Committee for their work. They obviously followed all the channels, and that's great. Me personally, we're not in the business of just giving away money. We are not a philanthropic organization. Our job is to encourage the creation of new jobs, encourage capital investment in our community, and I thought that's what the original agreement was. And so I feel like him coming back and asking for more money, saying, hey, I could have qualified for more. That's great, but he said what he needed was $210,000 up front to do what he needed to do to expand his business, to hire more people, to do those things. I feel like we've done that. So me personally, I don't care for this. I think our original agreement was good, but that's me.
I totally
Anybody else like
agree.
to speak?
I do have a question. When we're going through and we're counseling these people, we're talking about grants and we're talking about things like that on the ODC side. How are we? What are we telling these people? Are we just saying, okay, what do you need? Are we asking, what are you qualifying for? What is our ask there? Did we fail on that side, or did we fail on?
We try to
where-
qualify them according to their NICS code, and we,
Well,
I
not
guess you could say
necessarily,
we
but maybe
counsel
wrong.
with the application.
Mm-hmm.
But this one actually came in, everything was done. I just got an email. This was not one we recruited. It was, to my knowledge, and Tracy, if you agree, nod, it was probably the most well-done application with every single required item in a PDF form, and it just came in.
Yeah, I remember Peggy commented on how.
And so like we do with any of them, I reached out to him and I told him the process and how it goes before compliance and the ODC board. He had a figure in there. Usually, if they have a figure already and as organized as this was, I didn't think I said, do you have any questions, concerns? When I told him about the process, he said, no, we're good. He said, do I need to be at the ODC meeting? He couldn't be here today, but he was at the one last month. I said, well, there's usually not a question of the applicant, but it doesn't hurt to be in the audience.
And failure may not have been the right word to use there. I mean, it's more along the lines of where did this break down? I mean, are we doing that with everybody where we're going, hey, you qualify for more at the very beginning?
I asked him what the 210 represented, and he said that he had applied for an SBA loan, and that's why he asked for the 210 with the first application. The second came about because he was made aware that the matrix showed a higher income or higher dollar level that he could have actually qualified for. We normally don't go to them and go, oh, well, you ought to ask for more.
Good, okay.
Because, you know, another example, and I won't name them, but a couple of our real big projects that y'all have passed and approved for funding, well, I'll say Oxy, the number ultimately that they could qualify for is off the matrix, or it's not something y'all would want to do. And so, you know, we will, well, another company that recently y'all approved and is in the construction mode right now, they could have gone to a much, much higher number. And so during the compliance committee meeting, I said, well, here's my recommendation as an economic development practitioner, what a good number you may want to consider that kind of makes sense. And they talked about it, reviewed it, and they went with that number and felt good about it.
I mean, I think from where I sit, you know, we've got to make sure that because we're basically negotiating on behalf of the taxpayer. This board, you guys, that's basically what we're doing. We're entering into negotiation. We want to make sure that we offer, that we get the most bang for the buck in every deal that we do. And that's what kind of bothered me about this, of the additional ask. You know, we had a deal in place, everybody was happy, then we come back for more money. I feel like we're doing the taxpayer a disservice at that point because nothing's changed. We had a deal that was locked and everybody was good. And I think we just have to take, in my opinion, we just have to take that kind of attitude. You know, we're negotiating on behalf of the taxpayer.
Well, and I can guarantee you, your economic development staff look at it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I received a call the next day after the meeting, and the gentleman said, hey, I wanted to find out about submitting a new application. I said, for what? And I by that time I knew he'd been made aware. And he said, well, I was told that I qualified for more money. And I said, well, you're welcome to submit one. And I told him, I said, I don't know how that will be received. It would probably follow the same channels as your last application. We would take it to compliance, and then if they recommend it, you know, bring it back to the board, and that's what we did.
Tom, in view, in a couple of compliance meetings, I mean, we'd already come to a line, and other people had tried to offer up more money, and were getting over the line, and which would have created a lot more work for us and redundancy in what we do and more review time, which, you know, their ask is what we're going after, or they read the rules and they figure it out and they ask and we say okay, or we have the ability to cut it back some. But I've seen on a couple of occasions, the reason I say this, we have 4 new members and new indoctrination, and I think they should be advised that they shouldn't, when something is done, they shouldn't create a lot more work through review, through us, the city council, you, through going back through attorneys, rewrites and these things, when we've looked at it and, you know, we need to go from there, I think.
Can I make a comment? Yeah. You know, in practice, for a long time, you know, the compliance committee obviously keeps confidential information. There's no question about that, and they're required to do that. The matrix is confidential information from the city's perspective, and I think we need to revisit that. I think we should revisit that issue to make sure that matrix information is confidential. It's just guidelines. You know, again, it's very valuable. I don't want to minimize the value of it. It's a great starting point, and it gives, you know, there's a lot of thought put into it. It helps us to generate a return on our, you know, return on investment on our grants and everything. But I think it's important that we maintain that matrix information is confidential. And so I think that's something that ought to be revisited with the compliance committee.
The only thing we share with projects with regards to the matrix, we don't give detail on how it's weighted necessarily, but we'll tell them that we take your numbers, capital expenditure, job creation, retention, everything you put in the application. That's why you need to be as thorough as possible. And then we put it in a matrix, a software program that we have, and it will kick out guidelines on how the board may consider approving a grant to fund this project. We never tell them there's a guarantee. We never give them a number up front. This was just one of those rare instances where somebody approached them and said, hey, you qualify for more money.
Yeah,
I
and
think that's what Mr. Boutin's
I think
saying.
that, yeah, I think there's a couple of ways that this typically happens. In many cases, they basically said, I'm looking for X amount of dollars, and then we respond to that, determine whether that makes sense, and then it's recommended to the ODC board. If the ODC board concurs, then we approve it. The other way it happens is they don't really know, they're just looking for some help. And the compliance committee can come up and go through their machinations and whatnot, and looking at the matrix and the value of the jobs and all those kinds of things, and then make a recommendation based on that. They say, well, that we're going to recommend to the board X amount of dollars, and it happens that way.
Yeah, probably a
But
majority.
any other way, it shouldn't happen.
Yeah. A majority of the requests, they don't ask for a specific amount. They don't know what to ask for.
Yeah.
And we tell them we don't know what the matrix will kick out, but whatever it does, the compliance committee, followed by ODC, followed by, we also make them aware that the council is the last.
And that grant amount either works for them or it doesn't.
Yeah.
That's typically the way it happens. So I think what I would recommend is we revisit that with the compliance committee to ensure all the members understand that. And
We can
that's
emphasize that
what-
moving forward.
That's what the process needs to.
What
Okay.
I heard you say, David, and I would agree with, and correct me, because I don't want to put words in your mouth, is that really and truly, one of our compliance committee members should have never told him he qualified for more money, because what's happening in compliance committee is confidential. And those numbers that we generated
Yeah.
And if they did
after the
that-
fact, is-
Well, and as staff, I
Right.
actually prefer that coming from y'all, because it makes me now, it's an easy job to go back to compliance and go, hey, y'all can't do this again.
Yeah,
So
Well, and
I love to put a buffer between me and,
it might show
Commands.
favoritism towards that committee member. whoever-
yeah, so just say, David Boutin said.
Well, I got to serve on compliance committee, and it was a fun committee to serve on. But I remember when I was appointed in here, it was very well made clear how confidential that information needed to be for situations exactly like this, as to why that needed to be confidential, and how that can come back on this board, how it can come back on the city. And this is a situation where that's happened.
and I will say, watching how it came about, I think it was just a committee member who had the interest of helping this small business. I don't think there was any self-serving issue involved with it. I think they just saw where, maybe we can provide more help than we did. But certainly, I've got the message today, and moving forward, we will emphasize that, when y'all make a decision in a meeting, it goes to the board, but the decision was made. So,
So one more point. It could be that, because I've heard this said when a report's being made to ODC, a recommendation being made to ODC board, that, well, this grantee actually qualified for more money. Now, it could have been that it came about in that regard, if I could have got more money, can I reapply type thing, that's probably likely how that happened, that it popped out in our open meeting.
I agree.
But I think that the response would be, no, you can't reapply. This is what you said you wanted. That's what was approved, and it's done. So that's the way I would handle it
Yeah,
at that
and-
point. So that gives the compliance committee clear understanding of, you get one shot at it.
Well,
Unless something changes.
Does that
Unless
affect
the material-
something in the regards of the project scope changes, you see something with something like
That's
1.5 or something
Yeah,
changes.
if the information changes, then, yeah, you could.
Okay.
More
revisit
jobs
it.
for sure.
I just want to make sure that if we
Yeah.
say that we're not going to turn around
no,
and mess something over the other side.
They can't just reapply basically because they qualified for.
Right.
over
That's
in-
the project.
Well, and I would say even in open session, I'd really prefer not to hear that, hey, these guys could have qualified for a lot more. Because now we've thrown it out there and they're like, dang, we kind of plan that, say, I'd just rather not, I'd rather just not have that spoken. I mean, again, we're negotiating on behalf of the taxpayer to get the best, the most jobs, the most capital investment for the least money in our community. I think that's the approach we got to take to it.
I think most of us remember last month when Peggy brought that to us, that he asked for 210, and what was available was what was, and I know that she said that he may come back later and we kind of understood maybe later that he might come back because he was available a lot
kind of
more
technically
available.
this is later, but.
And that was in the open meeting, like
Yeah.
you're saying, that may not even come from anybody like that, but.
He probably didn't.
But, and at the time, that she's told us that, it was kind of understood. I mean, all of us kind of heard this, and, well, if he needs more, we're here,
Yeah, and I
That's
think
about
probably the interpretation of that comment by the board was that things may change and he may come back for an additional
I was
request.
thinking more along the lines of bigger store. We're putting in
Right.
more equipment.
More-
We're
more
bringing in more
employees.
jobs.
That's usually the message we give when we see one where they qualified for a lot more. We're like, hey, look, we want you to expand. And so keep in mind that when you do expand, add employees, come back to us, let's talk about it. And Liberty's a good example because we hope they keep growing. And we made that clear. It was a great project to work on, relatively easy for the size of it. And we said, a company like yours, if you're going to have a project and you add 100 people, come back to us.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we still have an item 6 on the table where Reynolds King is asking for an additional $426,000. So I need a motion one way or the other.
I would make a motion that we do not approve that additional ask.
Have a motion to decline the additional investment of $426,000. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a second. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. The grant will stay at $210,000.
And let's make sure that we convey to Reynolds King that the reason that it was declined is that there wasn't there was no change.
Changing the scope.
There was
Okay.
nothing changed in the application.
For example,
We will.
more FTEs, more employees.
Yeah.
More. If there were other changes like that, it probably would look much more significant.
It's easier to do.
Okay.
Wonderful. Okay, that brings us to item 7, discuss and consider compliance monitoring report for Select Energy Services. Compliance Committee Representative Mansky.
You have before you the compliance report for Select Energy. There's too many energy companies there. Select Energy Services, as I'm looking right at it. I do not have the resolution in front of me, but compliance looked at them. They came in with about 75 to 80% in compliance, actually just over 75%, barely. And so compliance reviewed it. It was numbers didn't match up with payroll and FTEs, but they did have at least 75% of what they said they were going to have, and so compliance recommended that you approve a payment of 75% of what their annual payment would be. And I apologize, I do not have that in front of me. I think it's in the resolution. I think it's 18,000. So the agreement calls for a total figure of $91,871. I believe this is the final payment that they're due, and it calls for, let me get down here, 75% would equate to $13,780.65.
So, yeah, that was my big question, is what the percentage was, because I noticed they missed some of their numbers, but I couldn't quite ascertain what was going on there. I know last year this was a mess as well, and
Yeah.
sounds like it's still kind of a mess, but
And on the Texas Workforce paperwork they get, it's, even our auditing company has trouble with how they match up some, but they did have, it could be proven they did have 75% and some change, and so that's why compliance reviewed it and recommended that payment.
Kind of troubled by the fact of how far under they've got their new hire. You look at the total wages and then the required wages. I mean, that's way under 75%. I don't,
That's about,
I'm
that's
looking-
about it. You're talking about the difference between
On-
the
on the
10
new
million
hire.
and the 7 million?
I'm talking about the 2 million and the 1 million. When you look at the new hire wages, those are new FTEs. 26, they hired a total number of 118, and they based their FTEs based off of 2.6 million, came back with less than 1.1 million.
No, it's the
No,
reverse.
the reverse.
Is it the reverse? Okay, I'm looking at that
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah, reverse.
Okay, sorry. Early morning. I apologize for that.
Any other questions, any other discussion? I think the ask is for 75% of what would be this last annual payment. So that would 75% would be $13,780.65.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion from Dr. Kirk,
Second.
second from Mr. Russell. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mansky. Item 8, the board may recess into executive session in compliance with section 551.001 of the Texas Government Code. Today, I don't think we have any reason to go into executive session unless you guys have something for me, so we're good there. Item number 9 would be to reconvene, since we're not going to go out, with no need to come back. Item number 10, citizens' comments on non-agenda items. Again, this is an open meeting, therefore, at this time, we open it up the floor to any citizens that would like to make comments on any item that is not on the agenda. Seeing none, that brings us to item number 11, upcoming dates for the future ODC board meeting. Tentatively, we have August the 8th at 8:30 a.m. Is that good for everybody?
I think that should work.
Right. Since you was so happy today, we'll just go with that. And then we tentatively have a special meeting to review and discuss the proposed 24 and 25 general development plan, contractor proposals, and budget that is set for Thursday, August the 1st.
And no time on that one.
There is no time. We want to, same bat channel, same place? Are we good? 8:30 a.m.? Right, as we like to say in West Texas, right here?
That one is, what kind of time frame we need on that one?
Normally longer.
That's
I
what,
mean,
the morning?
Yeah, because there's gonna be budget review, the general development plan,
whole
contractor
morning.
proposals.
The whole morning?
I'm gonna say probably most of the morning.
Okay.
Is that good for everybody? Okay. So we'll say 8:30 here in council chambers. Can you guys make sure that council chambers will be available on the 1st? Okay, thank you. And with that, unless anybody else has anything else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Have a motion?
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you.